Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and you know when people say like, if you had told me that I could do this, like I would never believe that. Well, I kind of feel that way. Because if you told me about a year ago that, hey Tommy, in the next year, you're gonna have, for example, be able to run 26.2 miles, you're gonna lose 50 pounds, you're gonna be going to the gym for 73 weeks straight, you're going to give your life to Christ, and all these things, I will look at you and say, hey, yo, bro, that's a great personality, you're very proactive, positive, but I'm 215 pounds and I really don't care about any of those things. And I never even ran 3 miles in my entire life. But today, I'm here to tell you guys, okay, I ran my first marathon, like my first competition, and I finished it, which is basically equal to 42 kilometers. And what I learned in this race, I kind of get goosebumps thinking about it, is a bunch of life lessons that you can only learn via suffering. And one thing I've learned is that, I hate to say this, but it's very true, is that I love suffering, not because I'm kind of crazy, but because of what I'm actually able to learn from myself via that suffering. And I'm gonna go into more detail later in the video. But in this video, I don't wanna be a person that says, hey guys, here's everything that went well in my marathon. Look at me. I wanna tell you the mistakes I've made, the good things I did, and also what I could have done a lot better, because it was not perfect. I had a goal. I did not reach my goal, but I'm gonna tell you exactly what ended up happening. And as always, guys, like this video, on top out, also subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified. And one thing I wanna make very clear here, when I say I've done all these things, I ran over 1,000 miles this year, I did a marathon, I lost 50 pounds, I go to the gym consistently for like the past 73 weeks, at least 8 times a week I'm exercising. It sounds amazing, spectacular, but don't forget that I was 215 pounds, I was overweight, I was almost depressed basically, I wasn't doing anything with my life. And when I say these things, it's not to show off, it's to tell you that if I came from such a dark place, then you're also able to overcome it. Because I've also learned about other people like David Goggins, that also came from a darker place than I came from, and he was also able to accomplish not this, but a ton more. So you're also able to do it. So it's not to show off, it's to tell you it's possible for you to accomplish whatever it is you want to accomplish. Now, the very first thing, guys, is I'm gonna tell you first the 3 lessons I learned in this race. And the very first one is, guys, that a small mistake can compound, and it can basically not just ruin this race for me, but it can basically ruin your life. All my life, I've heard these quotes that basically say, one small habit can change your life for the better. One drop of water on the stone, the same spot, can basically cause this massive hole if you give it enough time on a rock. All those things used to impress me, but I also understood this, that just as a habit, a small one, or time, drop of water can change everything, well, a small mistake can compound and ruin your entire life if you actually let it. So when I went out for this race, I had this very simple goal. I wanted to run at a 9-minute per mile pace, and I wanted to keep that pace up for like around 4 hours, so I was actually able to finish the race in less than 4 hours. Now, obviously, I did not do that. I finished actually in around 4 hours and 27 minutes. So along the way, something obviously went wrong. When did it go wrong? It went wrong not at mile 17 when my pace slowed down. It went wrong before I even hit mile 1, because I made a small mistake that cost me the goal that I actually wanted. Let me explain, because although you get a medal, although you get success, although you're finished, there's always something to be learned to actually improve. But don't take away from the part that, hey, you actually did it, that's awesome, but also say, what could I have also done better? My big mistake was this, guys. And someone warned me about it, and I ignored them. This right here carries about, I think about a half a liter, or yeah, a half a liter of water. I carried this in my little book bag thing for the first 17 miles of the race. Now, I've done this before at for 20 miles, and I was like, yeah, it hurts, it's fine, but I'm gonna finish it off. But I didn't persist in the idea that, hey, Tommy, you're going a lot faster than you usually do. You're holding this pace in competition with nerves, with testosterone going crazy, and you're doing this for 26.2 miles. It's gonna hurt eventually. So when I hit mile 17, and by the way, right here I'm gonna show you guys a little bit of my splits, because guess what? In the beginning, everything was going actually super well. I was actually fine. I was keeping up the exact pace. And when I hit mile 16, I was still feeling good. Everything was fine. And then mile 17, it was like I hit a brick wall. My pace slowed down. I was gasping for air. I wanted to give up. I wanted to have excuses. My mind started breaking. And I thought to, what is going on? I've done more than 20 miles before, and it just happened to be that the small mistake of carrying this half a liter of water in my bag for that long, for that amount of time, caused my legs to basically give out and cause me cramps. Now, that basically tells you guys, okay, whenever you're doing something, it's super important that you analyze the whole situation. What should I have done then? I shouldn't have carried that, because there was water literally in almost every single mile of that race. There were participants and actually people helping us by giving us bottles of water, but I didn't want to depend on them. But I should have, because that's what they're there for. That was my big mistake that cost me my time goal. Now, number 2, guys, is this. Your mind quits before your body does. Now, that's actually pretty savage, and here's why. Because I know that my body has actually done more than 20 miles before, but then all of a sudden I hit mile 17, and my mind is telling me, oh, this is hard. Like, you just made this mistake here. You can just stop right here. You can quit. You can start walking. Just stop. Like, why are you here? Like, what's going on? Like, you're not a marathoner. You're not gonna be racing anybody. This is not your goal. You make money doing what you do. Like, why are you here for? And the thing is, guys, the body is kind of disloyal, honestly. And there are these 3 things that kept me going. The first thing is understanding first the 40% rule. Now, that's the rule I learned by David Goggins, and it basically says the 40% rule is that whenever you think you're done mentally, your body's broken, that's when you have you just reach 40% and you have another 60% to actually give. Now, it's not when you think you hit 40%, it's when you hit 40%. And what that means is basically, I thought I hit 40% at mile 12. And I was like, I'm a little tired here. Like, I may have to slow down, but I kept going. But when I hit miles 16 to 17, that's when I hit my 40%, because that's when I could not do anymore, but I still had so much more in the tank, but mentally, I was basically giving up. That rule helps me out so much, because it tells me my body's giving up now, I have more, I'm able to do more. Now, the second thing is, you have to have the answers before your mind asks the questions. So you gotta have that powerful why. And I know I want to change my life. I want to be the best version of myself. I want to be a walking testimony for God. And I just want to be the absolute best version that I possibly can of myself. And that might sound like a mix of, you have the good stuff with the God stuff, but you also have the selfish stuff. And the truth is, guys, when you're hitting mile 16 or mile 17 in a marathon, or you're doing something extremely hard, you can't BS yourself with I want to do this for just charity. I just want to help people, because you're not going to finish. You're going to be super, super honest with why you're actually doing this, because if you don't dig deep enough, you're not gonna find anything to actually dig up. So if you have all of these nice ideas that they're not real, you gotta have real concrete answers to that why to keep you going. And lastly, what kept me going in this race wasn't ego per se, but it was knowing what my why was, knowing what this can do for my family and all the people around me, and also knowing all the people I told I was gonna do the race, and I didn't want to come back and say, I quit. I wanted to finish it, and I wanted to finish it even if I had to crawl to the finish line. I didn't have to do that, but I was willing to. I was willing to die out there, honestly. And that sounds crazy, but it changes you. Now, the third thing I learned from this race is that basically preparation brings confidence, and confidence needs faith to go along with it. Because when circumstances change, you have to have the faith to know that, I can do this because I've done this before. Like, I know people that they might want to run some miles, but they never ran it before. You have no confidence because you know for a fact you never done it before. But now when I was at mile 10, I was like, I've done this before. Mile 15, I've done this before. Mile 20, I've done this before. Mile 26, I was like, I haven't been here. But I know for the past 16, 18 weeks, I've been training for this exact moment, so I am prepared to actually do it. And what I mean is, all this fake motivation of, I can do this, without any type of actions make absolutely no sense and no difference. One of my favorite quotes is by the Navy SEALs, and they're saying, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. And that's why they train so hard. Because when all the cards are stacked against you, you fall to the level of your training. When I felt like I wanted to quit, I fell to my recovery pace. I was like, I can do this recovery pace forever. Like, I'm not gonna quit. I can just fall back here. I can stay here forever. I'm gonna finish this race. I'm gonna finish strong. But I knew that because of my training. And also within that, I learned to fall in love with the suffering. Not because I'm a psychopath, but because I know that me being comfortable brings nothing for me, but me being in an uncomfortable position actually brings all the fruits that I've gotten so far from all of my labor. And there's actually this amazing verse in the Bible. So in Proverbs 17 verse 3 it says, in the same way that gold and silver are refined by fire, the Lord purifies your heart by the tests and trials of life. And that actually makes a lot of sense. So it's kind of like saying, like, you're only really gonna grow by going through hard things in life. If all you do is all you've done, you only have what you'll always had. But if you do more, if you become uncomfortable, if you become okay with doing things you're not used to, there's gonna be a new next level of you, because that's what's required for you to do those new things. Now, I'm not saying you go from one day you did 20 minutes, now you wanna go run for 4.5 hours. No, you don't do it like that, but you say, I wanna be a little uncomfortable every single day. And when you do that, the body's so amazing, it's so adaptable, right? So it's kind of like you kind of have to keep raising the discomfort level, because what used to be hard for you eventually will be easy. And that's what I love about the human body and the design of it, honestly. Now, that's what I've learned from this race, and that's basically it. But if you want even more detail, I'm gonna dive in even more. Some of the good things that I basically did during this race, guys, was basically, number one, I ran my own race. Some of these people that I started out with, some of them fell back, some of them went ahead, and I was like, I don't care what you guys are doing, I'm running my own race. Because I know from not my personal experience, but from the experience of David Goggins, that whenever you try to run somebody else's race, things don't go that well, because you don't know their level of training, and you don't know if that person's just doing ego to try to compete with you, and then he's gonna blow up, and then you blow up, and then you guys are both stupid, right? You don't wanna do that. And on top of that I also learned that you don't steal souls, you don't break people, you don't try to compete in the very beginning, which sounds very like chaotic what I'm saying, and kind of like, oh, you're crazy, Tommy. But you don't try to steal souls in the beginning of the race, you do it at the very end. When I was on the final miles, like the final 2 miles, I said, I'm gonna steal some souls right now. And I just picked up the pace, and I went right back to 10 minutes per mile, to 9 minutes per mile, to just speeding. And that's when I passed the 4 people that were basically in front of me, and they were like, where did all of this like strength come from? And I was like, this is the point where I'm gonna steal your soul. And that's what I did. And it sounds crazy, but it's amazing though. I love it, okay? Now, the second thing I did, guys, I did all the preparation and I did not complain. The reason I was so confident I would be able to do a marathon and that this thing was basically mine from the minute I got there was because I put in 30+ mile weeks. I did the 20-mile long runs, the 18-mile long runs, the 50-mile long runs. I did all the Sundays. I did all the speed runs. I did all the work that I basically followed from the Nike Run app. And I knew if I do all the things correctly and I'm prepared for success, then success will probably come to me. If something happens, like maybe I break a leg or whatever, that's different, but I've done all the work required to make this happen. So that's where the faith kind of came into play, because I knew I did the work, I'm ready, now let's have faith that everything's gonna go well. And that's where I just laid everything in God's hands. And I was like, it's basically done. Like, the work is done. Now, number 3, guys, is I didn't stop. I didn't give up. You know, during this entire race, it's not like you're like, I'm so hard. I'm not gonna give up. You know, you think about giving up a lot. And I thought about giving up a lot. But whenever you have those questions and those feelings, you keep going back to your training. And that's why I say, you know, you don't rise to the level of the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. During my training, there were a lot of times where I wanted to give up. I didn't allow myself. And if I stopped running, I would run more. Like, I would not give myself a break, because I knew if you make excuses here, you'll make excuses there, and before you know it, your whole life sucks, because I know myself. So it's very important that you give always an honest effort. It's very important that when I blew up at mile 17 or mile 16 to 17, I need to slow down, but don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. You keep going. And I did have like bathroom breaks, but the minute I was done, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. And there's no harm in walking. I just knew with my level of training, I did not need to walk, because I am ready and I'm prepared. But I could walk because my mom was telling me to walk, but I said, we don't have to do this because we've been here before. That's the idea. Now, here's what I didn't do correctly. My mistakes, okay? Obviously, the water, half a liter in the back, bad mistake. Terrible. That's why it's so important. You ever ask yourself, like, why do people pay an extra $50 to make a $200, $300 sneaker purchase just because a few grams in the sneaker is like a little lighter? Because it makes them faster. Because just a few grams makes a bunch of difference when you're running for 26.2 miles or 42 kilometers. So imagine the difference it would have been if I would not have a half a liter back there. Now, whether that's true or not true, I don't know, but we'll see in the next marathon, because of course I'm gonna do another one pretty soon. Not soon, but pretty soon. I'm still building up because I'm still recovering via recovery runs, okay? Number 2 is the time. I woke up a little bit too late. So marathon was at 5 a.m. I woke up at 4 a.m. Sounds on time, but you don't want to do that. I should have woken up like around 3 a.m. and did everything I needed to do to prepare for the race right then and there. So when I got there, I was already warmed up. I basically just got there. I was like, where's my kit? Okay. And I just did a little like leg pull, and I was like, all right, let's go. Boop, and I just went, you know, because there wasn't really that much time. Bad mistake. It cost, okay? It cost me a lot. Yeah, what you don't do in mile 1 costs you a lot more in mile 17, and I learned my lesson. That's basically it, you know, and in the end, when I was doing this race, it all fell back to my family, the people around me, God, and also at the very end, it was kind of like, you got this. Like, this is just going to be another cookie in the jar, like Goggins says, and it's just more confirmation that you can come from nothing, you can be not smart, and you're able to do this. And that's basically it, guys. That's what I learned from running my very first marathon. I hope this video helps you, and if you guys want to run a marathon for the very first time and you're actually interested, know that anyone can do it, okay? You can do it. Like, anyone can basically run a marathon, but obviously it requires training, it requires sacrifice, and it requires you be smart enough to know that you're not gonna do it overnight, and it can take you maybe a few months, it can take you a year, it can take you 2 years, but the answer is you can do it. Whether you walk it, whether you jog it, whether you run it, whether you try to compete, you can do it. But the question is, are you willing to do what it takes to be able to do it? I use, for example, the Nike Runners Club entire marathon plan. It's free. I use Saucony as my shoes if you're interested in that. I use an Apple Watch. I don't use the other watch that everybody likes. I just use my Apple Watch. I really don't care. The Garmin, it's nice, but I really like my Apple Watch and I use it. But yeah, you don't need to fit a profile. Just put on some sneakers, go for a run, and that's basically it. And be smart about your training, learn from the best, and that's what helped me out so much. I wasn't really worried about, hey, this person's telling me to do this. I was like, I'm gonna learn from the best, and I'm gonna follow the training because they're the best, and I'm gonna basically train. Remove your ego. Be a student, and that's what basically happens, and that's how you kind of do things, okay? As always, guys, thanks for watching. I love you guys so much. I'm glad to be back on the channel. And you might be wondering, Tommy, Why would you want to do marathon if your whole goal in life is to be like a super cool investor or whatever? It's because if I'm able to run for 4.5 hours, which Warren Buffett is not able to do, imagine what I'm able to do when I'm just sitting in the table and just reading for 6 or 8 hours. It's gonna be like easy, because if I'm able to do so many hard things in life and continue with my health, I'm gonna have the energy, I'm gonna have the willpower, I'm gonna have the strength necessary to just pick up a book and basically read it, because that's a lot easier than going out there and running for 4.5 hours, right? That's the idea, and that's why I do it. As always, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified, comment down below with any questions. On top up here is another video. Raise my face, click subscribe, and as always, long-term team officially out.